Welcome back to Off Record On Point, the workplace culture podcast with that all-important twist. I'm Julia Linehan, founder and CEO of The Digital Voice.
And I'm Kasey Long. Today, we're joined by Lauren Palmer, newly appointed VP of Sales and Partnerships for NAM at Interlink. And as always, you can check the description for our usual list of resources to keep the conversation going. Here's a sneak peek at what's in store.
I would like to see the narrative shift. I'd agree with you, get rid of the label, make it about everybody, make it about human nature. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with that. And I think we also need to challenge and explore a little bit, why does imposter syndrome exist in the first place? You know, what role do workplace systems play in fostering and exacerbating it in women?
What is driving you to go for that change and being brave?
I love that question. So I think when you think about, being as bold and brave and making big decisions, just don't look back, right?
Yeah.
Keep pushing forward. Be really, really confident in your decision. And I think, confidence in decision-making is such a key trait for successful leadership as well.
What do you personally do to move through that fear zone, get into the water where you're not touching? How have you done it?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, look, we're all going to feel fear at some point, aren't we? How do I do it? Leverage my network.
Lauren's new role has meant a big move with her family to New York City. And today's episode is all about how fortune favors the bold. Julia, give us the lowdown.
Oh, I love this topic. Fortune favors the bold, and it really appeals to me because anyone who knows me knows I bang on about this. Be bold, be brave, be you. And our guest today really embodies that and has done so many things that we want to cover off in this session and really provide a lot of advice on issues around imposter syndrome, how to stop giving a shit so much about what people think, how you really can take a leap of faith. Lauren, who's joining us, has had high-level role at Foundry and was VP there and has just recently made an incredibly daring move. So I'm really excited to hear about her story, how she felt about that leap of faith, what made her feel confident and brave enough to do it, and then also provide some guidance for our audience and our listeners about how they can achieve it, how they can get out that comfort zone and get into that grow zone further on. So without further ado, I'm going to shut up because our guest here is the one who's going to tell us all about it. So welcome, Lauren.
Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me on. It's good to see you both.
Good to see you.
You're very welcome. Well, we're going to put you in the hot seat straight away. We don't take it easy on our guests. We ask you first, this is a challenge. We want you to intro yourself in a minute or less about who you are, what you do, and where you got there. Hit it up, Lauren. Go for it.
I love it. If anyone doesn't love an accelerator pitch, it's a salesperson. So for those who don't know me, my name is Lauren Palmer. I'm a commercial sales leader. So I lead a team specifically working with technology clients all over the world. And we offer digital media solutions to drive demand for their business. I've been in the industry for about 15 years. Always feels a bit strange when you say that, but I absolutely love what I do. And I think one of the biggest things about me is that I've always prided myself on relationships and connections with people in my field of work. So in terms of how I've got to where I am now, ultimately that is, talking to people within our industry. And that has offered me, some really great development and growth opportunities and has landed me this amazing new role at Interlink North America. Outside of work, I try and use my voice to really ignite change. And a big goal of mine is to support the continued growth of women, particularly driving women confidently into leadership positions. So there's a lot of work that I do outside of my day-to-day in that space.
It's amazing.
And then I guess personally a little bit, I love fitness, I love traveling, I love culture. And the love of my life is a white fluffy dog. Although my husband will probably be a bit upset that he is.
I was going to say, is your husband in earshot? We also love the husband too. Lauren, that's so good. And there's so much that I want to unpick in that really, especially, and by the way, especially about women in female leadership and leadership in sales roles. And we we were talking to Suze, who's the founder of ESB Connect, about this, about how can we encourage more women to go in sales. And there's a whole area that I think we'll try and touch on for that as well. I'm very impressed that you've mentioned the most important thing about getting where you want to go is about yourself communicating, being a good communicator, talking to people, and actually embracing other people, and that being a standout for you. So I want to ask you this, you've quit quite a senior role, you've taken that leap of faith. What inspired you to do this, and how much did you have to dig deep on bravery, or did it feel very natural that it's from that desire to want to continue just communicating with new people?
Sure. I think, ultimately it stems from my love of people and connection. So they say keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And the reason I say that is because I wasn't actually looking for a new job. I was very happy in my role, but I was headhunted for this opportunity. And that is because Interlink are in a very similar field to my previous employer. They were aware of my track record. They were aware of the work that I was doing internally. They were aware of me and the work that I was doing with my clients. And, what was nice is I was kind of quietly watching their business from the sidelines. I was really seeing them thrive. I loved the innovation they were putting out into market. People were speaking so highly of this business. So when they reached out to me and said, look, this is an opportunity to launch and scale our North America business, I mean, for me, that was exactly the growth opportunity that I was after. So
nice.
What I often say to my mentees or anyone who's feeling a bit nervous and not knowing what their next step is, don't be afraid to look left and right. There's absolutely nothing wrong with keeping a pulse on what competitors are doing, what similar businesses are doing, because you never know what this might mean for future growth opportunities for you, especially when you're a specialist in the field. So there's nothing wrong with that. And that's ultimately what's landed me an amazing new opportunity relocating to New York.
Oh, that's so awesome. And it reminds me actually of one of Julia's favorite phrases. Be bold, be brave, be you. You are living and breathing this with your move to NYC, which is my original neck of the woods as well. So what is your toolkit for coping? I'm someone that's made a big transatlantic move as well, and I know there can be a lot of nerves and the planning and just the general stress around it. What is driving you to go for that change and being brave?
I love that question. So I think when you think about, being as bold and brave and making big decisions, just don't look back, right?
Yeah.
Keep pushing forward. Be really, really confident in your decision. And I think, confidence in decision-making is such a key trait for successful leadership as well. Ultimately leaders are, deciding on the route they want to take their business. They're coming up with a strategy, they're building a vision, and they're leading their team towards that vision. And they are not looking back for 1 second.
I love it. So true.
Yeah, I think definitely just take that forward in terms of your own personal decisions. There's no wrong decision. Go forward. There's a reason why you chose that path. I actually jotted down a quote that I loved when I was definitely nervous about making the dive. It's a David Bowie quote that my dad said.
Ooh.
And he said, always go a little further into the water than you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting. And I loved that.
That's such a good one.
Do you know what? That reminds me, I've always lived by this motif that you should always take on a job that you cannot do when you take it on. And that's the whole purpose of it. And it's scary. It's really scary as hell. But I always believe that. It's like, you've got to push yourself. If you could do the job already, why would you go and change into doing that job? And this is interesting, actually, because I think that is that's really strong advice. So I want to pinpoint and go back a minute, back to that women in sales. And not just women, men in sales, because it's changing a lot. We recently had Simon on, who was about the CRO role, and it's a hugely under pressure role, probably one of the most intense, high turnover role. It's changing all the time. So what are the attributes? What are the skills? What's the mindset for saying, I'm going to be a successful salesperson today? And has there been a shift in the market that really has led to that new mindset? 2 questions in one.
Yeah, no, love it. It's funny actually as well, because I don't love the term salesperson. I think we need to move away a little bit from salesperson and actually look at it being sort of more partnerships led.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's something we're really considering at Interlink, because ultimately, to be a successful salesperson, it's all about, being a good partner to your clients and having a really good relationship
and
with
your
your client.
network.
Exactly. So Stephen Bartlett, actually, I read his recent book. I'm a massive fan. I think you either love him or you hate him, but I love him.
Is it The Diary of the CEO?
Yeah, The Diary of a CEO. It's a good read if anyone hasn't.
I've got it on my Audible at the moment. I'm chapter 2 in. I love all that stuff.
It's awesome. It's awesome. But he gives these little nuggets. And one of the things, the reason I mention about the salesperson piece is he actually advised a business not to use the word salesperson and to move into that partnerships realm. And their sales rose by 31% after doing that.
Wow.
I know. Just that slight shift. And I think it's how you approach your client base. I think, in terms of your second part of that question, Julia, I think there's 2 sides to salespeople. There's looking after your existing book of business, and ultimately that is the relationships that you have, making sure that you continue to be a strategic advisor, you're asking the right questions, you're constantly listening, you're not always talking as a salesperson, even though we love it. But secondly, it's a very interesting time because we talk a lot in a lot of research in the field about the era of digital self-serve. And what I mean by that is a lot of people say they want to consume all of their content digitally before they even speak to a salesperson. So I think that there is a lot of shift in terms of how you adapt as a salesperson in a market where you need to have a very strong digital presence. So it's about experimenting.
Digital understanding. Yeah.
We talk a lot about personal brand. It's being a bit more vocal, I'd say, across social channels. How are you going to engage with your prospective customers? And then obviously AI, this is an amazingly exciting time to leverage AI tools to make us more productive, to make us more efficient, to support with personalization. So there's a lot that it takes to be a salesperson, but it's people at the core.
Would you say though, because there's 2 things I want to just find out about that, because I'm a salesperson and I'm proud of it. 30 years in the making, absolutely loved it. But I truly believe you're right. It's about being a partner. And in fact, Kasey, our business coach, and she said, and she was the one, Nikki, who said, let's move towards it being client partners. So we only refer to our clients as our client partners. We're not their agency, we're their team, we're your partnership. And that's how we reframed it. When I think about AI, though, I really hate vanilla content. I hate salespeople who use it in their emails and use AI. I want it to be real. And I want it to be true. And I believe in the power of speech, and actually what you say needs to count, and bring that passion and energy and get people to buy into what you're selling. And a lot of that is about finding out and showing how, and the basis still remains for that. So it's fascinating, isn't it? It's a very fine line to tread with AI. Use it for good.
I agree.
It's always going to have that human element, isn't it? Where, you're going to be sense checking it or personalizing.
No, of course. I think I agree. I think we can't lose the human element. I will never use AI to draft necessarily my emails for me. I know what my clients want. I know how to approach it and personalize it the right way. But actually think about AI beyond that, and how can it help me manage my diary better? How can it take notes of calls? When I'm having a call with you and I'm pitching a product and solution, AI can listen to that and record when you started to lean in a little bit more. It will help me compile my notes for my call reports and all my administration. So you're right, Julia, do not lose the human element of being a good salesperson, which is, being good with people, but use it to help you be really efficient in the background and help you with that administration, which is high.
Love it.
Yeah, your best self.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, I can't lie. I'm still hung up on that brilliant David Bowie quote and thinking about pushing out into the wild. I really love that. I have to go look at wherever he said that or whatever. I think it's brilliant. And it really reminds me of a session, like Julia said, with our business coach, Nikki, where we talked about comfort zones. And it's very overlapping, where there's your comfort zone, your fear zone, your growth zone, and you obviously want to be in that growth zone mainly, but where we discuss stepping out of our comfort zone, having to break through that fear zone to reach growth. What do you personally do to move through that fear zone, get into the water where you're not touching? How have you done it?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, look, we're all going to feel fear at some point, aren't we? How do I do it? Leverage my network, soundboard, not just friends and family, but think about, allies, mentors, coaches. I'm a massive advocate in self-investment. So I have a number of coaches that support me in my career, whether it's life coaching, whether it's business coaching. I've got some C-suite mentors. I'm dipping my toes into board advisory work and I have no idea what I'm doing and there's loads of fear there, but I use mentors to help me navigate that space. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. So I think I'm quite an open person and I'm not afraid to say when I'm scared.
Yeah.
And I think soundboarding and using your network to help encourage you, to help guide you and give you perspective always helps.
So Lauren, you sound like probably one of the most clued up and together person that we've ever had the pleasure of chatting to. So I'm curious, is that confidence completely, do you feel it all the way through, or do you still suffer from that? Obviously everyone's banding around the phrase imposter syndrome. It's being talked about a lot. Have you experienced it? And did you experience it, I suppose, in this move, or are you all good? You're set? All those coaching work has done you proud?
Absolutely not. I like to, it's important to give off that vibe of confidence. And I've done a lot of work on building my confidence and self-belief. And I do feel that I can sit here today and feel confident in myself. But of course, there are times that you doubt your abilities. So let's go back to the word imposter syndrome, because actually, again, I hate it. I hate it so much. And the reason is it was a term that was coined by two psychologists in 1978. It's a long time ago, right?
Right.
And it was all centered around a study based on high achieving women. So, imposter syndrome is ultimately, doubting your abilities, feeling like a fraud. And I think we'd be arrogant if we sat there and said there are times that we haven't battled with that. Of course we have. But I do not have a syndrome and I do not need to be cured.
Yeah.
I think what imposter syndrome has done is it's taken mild anxiety, it's taken a little bit of nervousness and it's pathologized it, especially for women. And I do think we need to stop even using the word. So when you ask me that question, I think my response is I don't have imposter syndrome, but of course I've got nerves. And of course I sometimes doubt myself, but there's a lot of work that you can do about, positive self-talk and learning self-worth that will help push you forward. But there's nothing wrong with you.
If we had to give it another label then, Lauren, would it just be that it is human and self-doubt a little bit that,
be human?
Is it more just that rather than calling it, like you said, I love the way you pointed out, to syndrome. It's not really a syndrome. It's a human feeling and emotion kind of thing.
Yeah, I think, it's got to do with kind of the confidence crisis, so to speak. And I don't think, again, we should specify that is specifically to women. I think there are men that also are a little bit insecure at times.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
But I think the problem with labeling something is the impact that it has in terms of how you internalize it. So I recently did a mini neuroscience course and I learned about NLP, which is something called neuro-linguistic programming. And essentially, if you tell yourself you have imposter syndrome, so say you're going to do a big speech on a stage and you're really nervous and you tell yourself you have imposter syndrome, physiologically, your body is going to respond in a negative way. I can't do this. I'm going to fail. This is really, really scary. But it's all about, so NLP talks about that like subtle mind shift. Instead stand there and say, I am really scared. This is a big, big thing for me, But going back to being bold and brave, I'm going to do this.
We're going to rock with it. Yeah, we're going to stand in the fear zone.
Yeah, do you know what? I mean, I absolutely love that because I truly believe. So I've been on stage and presenting since I was 14 when I used to be county public speaking champion, and I'd be like the night before, I'd be like, "Why am I doing this? I'm absolutely hacking myself. Why am I doing this to myself?" And just before I go on stage, the nerves would be insane. And as soon as I walked out, as anyone knows me, put a microphone in my hand, somehow I harness those. And over the years, I've learned to really embrace it. That the nerves sends your blood pressure up and and BPM is up. So therefore you use it as nervous energy. Exactly as you said, Lauren, you have a mindset shift and you kind of go, I'm going to use this for that energy. I'm going to use it to really heighten how much I bring on stage, but never ignoring the fact this is nerve wracking. It is a case of it is making your brain more alert. And I find that fascinating. One thing though with it, I think we've done ourselves a disservice with this imposter syndrome because, as you said, it is men and women that are affected. But the more it's talked about in relation to women, it's conjuring up hysteria. It's conjuring up negative connotations. So I think I would like to see the narrative shift. Agree with you, get rid of the label, make it about everybody, make it about human nature. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with that. And I think we also need to challenge and explore a little bit, why does imposter syndrome exist in the first place? You know, what role do workplace systems play in fostering and exacerbating it in women? And I think we're so fixated on fixing women at work, fixing their imposter syndrome instead of actually fixing the places where women work. So one of the articles I read, it was all about fix the bias, not women. You know, I think it's all about creating an environment that fosters a variety of leadership styles. You know, we want diverse racial, ethnic, and gender identities. We want them to be seen as just professional as what we currently have in place. And maybe that will remove the feeling of being an imposter. So we need to kind of take it off the schedules and the agenda so much, I think, when we have great, meetings and women's career development conferences. Remove it altogether. Let's reposition it and challenge, systemic workplace structure instead.
So is it fair to say then that you think it's a lot of what's fueling this imposter syndrome narrative carrying on? It's through language and it's through bias and maybe a bit systemic in certain industries or workplaces?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is fair to say. Let's remove the imposter syndrome label. Let's revisit, helping people feel more confident in their abilities, helping people work on their self-worth, because that is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to do it every single day. But you deserve to be in the position that you are. There's nothing wrong with not knowing everything when you're taking on a new job. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. You are not going to fail. Use your network, use your soundboard, and just push forward confidently.
Great advice.
I think actually, what I'd love is for the last 5 or so minutes with you, Lauren, is to make it about advice and guidance. Because let's think about it for this. But we all know the worrying trend, which is that women will only apply for a role when they believe themselves to be 100% qualified. A man will go for it 60% or less. So if that's the case, if that's fact and an unfortunate fact, what advice is it we give to people going to be brave, leap, even when you don't have all the qualifications? What's Lauren's advice on that?
Yeah, we hear that a lot, don't we? That men are super confident at throwing their hat in the ring for things. But I'd say, firstly, confidence doesn't equal competence. That's key. Just because someone will throw themselves headfirst into things doesn't mean they're going to be the best at that job. Okay, so that's the first thing to say. And the second thing is, again, I just think it's so much more of a wider issue around gender equality than it is just about women and their confidence crisis. You know, if you think about even the COVID-19 pandemic, women still do 60% of unpaid work. So there's still a huge demand on women in their jobs and outside of their jobs. we're still centuries away from gender equality in that space. So I think that the answer is, you are more than capable. If you're not 100% sure, maybe the job isn't 100% right for you. But I think we also need to, keep being vocal, keep pushing forward for gender equality, keep finding men as our allies, and make sure that that balance is equal. Because if we're doing loads of extra work outside of our jobs, we're naturally going to feel that we're not going to be able to give our day-to-day jobs everything. So it's a fine balance. We've got work to do.
Yeah. I'd love to know, Lauren, what actionable advice then can we give our audience to help them overcome those biases where we do see men applying for more jobs actively than women or certain roles? How can women overcome that bias, or anyone, and find their voice in their personal brand?
Sure. I think, so I often get asked, how does it feel being the only woman in a male-dominated industry? I'm a young woman who has ended up in a senior leadership position. So it is often me and many senior men who are 10, 20 years my senior in the room. My biggest advice is, stop thinking about your gender. Let's just remove that for a second. Stop thinking that you're the only woman in the room. You may very well be, but you are absolutely meant to be where you are. You're great at what you do. You deserve to be there. So just try and remove the fact of looking at areas where you feel like that imposter, and focus on the reason that you actually are there, and why you deserve it.
Not putting yourself under a microscope.
I love that. You know my thing, Kasey,
Oh,
isn't
yeah.
it? And Lauren, if one of our very first podcasts was about smashing the glass ceiling, and I was like, I just didn't see it. If it was there, didn't see it, went right through it. I just don't see it. I don't give a monkeys about gender. I'll be honest, my own or other people's. And it is, I look for attributes that surpass anything to do with gender. It doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. And I believe I go into a room, I don't really see it. I mean, I could go in sometimes and I forget that I'm 5'1". In my mind, I'm really, really tall. And I kind of I walk around like I'm
10 feet tall.
way taller, and I just don't. And I think that's what, and it's not forced. It's just,
So you carry
well, I am
yourself.
who I am, and you'll take me as you are. And I think that was our final question. And Kasey and I really wanted you to answer this, because I say this with bravado, but still it bothers me what people think of me. And I would love to get rid of that. And I know, Kasey, when we talked about it, we were like, how do you really own your own values? How do you make sure that you just go, these are my values, this is my own behavior, this is who I am, and not care?
Yeah, and that's it.
It's so hard. I mean, honestly, I don't think we'd be...
Damn, we hoped you'd give us a really easy solution.
We thought you had the golden ticket for us, Lauren.
Exactly. And here is the solution. I'm really sorry. I don't think there is an easy solution. I think that we are only human. And of course, we are naturally going to care about what other people think. But actually, yesterday, I saw a post about someone saying it's not about stopping caring. It's actually about thinking about who you care about and whose opinion you actually care about. Because if there are people who don't like what you're doing or the message that you're putting out there, but they don't align with your values, they don't align with the way that that you live your life, or they don't understand what your long-term goals are and your career aspirations, why would you care about them, right? But there are going to be people in your community that do believe in you and do believe in your values. Maybe there might be a little bit that you do care about what those people think. But ultimately, if you're aligned in values and, you're doing something for yourself, you're being really authentic, you're being humble about, how you're pushing forward. I do a lot about self-promotion, which is a topic where people feel really uncomfortable because it ultimately is, I'm worried how people will judge me. But as long as you're being true to yourself, you're living by your values, you're doing the best you can for the greater good, it doesn't matter about anybody else. Just think about yourself.
Boom, mic drop moment. Love that. There's a whole load of stuff we can do on hype yourself. I'm a big fan
I
of
am
it.
remarkable too.
How to Yeah, I am remarkable from the jellyfish team.
Yeah,
Love that.
it.
So we'll put some things in, Kasey, and producer Ren at the end of links to other stuff
Totally.
around that. So thank you so much, Lauren. But
Thank you, Lauren.
it's not your time to get off the hot seat yet. It's the quick fire round.
Oh boy.
Are you ready?
You think so?
First question. They say you attract what you put out into the world. What vibes are you giving off?
I would say energetic vibes and tenacious vibes. I've got a big tenacious spirit. I'm very ambitious and very driven. So I hope that I can inspire others and draw those people to me as well.
Love it.
Love that. Kasey, what's yours? Florida sunshine vibes?
Florida sunshine, a lot of, wherever I can anyway.
Lovely. Mine's Duracell bunny action.
Yeah.
That's what I go with. Okay, question 2. What's your number one action for stopping imposter syndrome? We've covered it, but I wanted to know what's the number one when it hits you in the tracks and you feel it coming on. What do you do?
Got it. Okay, so there's a great guy called Mo Gaudat, and he says, name your imposter in your head. Actually label it. Give that imposter a name. So he calls the voice in his head Becky. So when Becky comes in and tries to be all negative to him, he tells Becky to stop, and he reshifts his thought pattern away from negative Becky. Label your imposter. It might help.
I love that.
I love that. I'd go with negative Nancy or Beryl came to mind. Kasey, name yours.
Oh my God. This is so much pressure.
On the spot? Lauren did hers on the spot. I don't know why you can't come up with it on the spot.
I would want to give it a nasty name like how you had it with a Beryl, but what's another good one that's...
I can't give you your nasty Nancy.
I'm cracking up.
Well, you have a think about what you've done because you failed in the quiz.
Yeah, I'm going to marinate on that imposter.
Lauren, back to you. Okay, back to seriousness. We'll re-record that when Kasey comes up with it.
I literally am like, what am I going to name it? I was not ready for that in the quick fire.
Gertrude. Gertrude, Kasey. You can Gertrude. Oh no, I'm offending all people with names. So
Gretchen.
Gretchen is a good one.
Producer Ren's now got to somehow weave that in so it was seamless.
Tighten that up a little for me, Ren. Thank you.
Okay, Lauren, what persisting bias do you want to eradicate? Do you want to see gone?
Easy, the gender pay gap.
Fuck yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's great. I read the other day that an 18-year-old entering the workforce will not see pay equality in her working lifetime. That needs to go.
Oh my God, I can't even think about that.
Just don't understand it. It
doesn't make sense.
Honestly, anyway, right. We talked about Stephen Bartlett, Diary's CEO, that I was saying I'm on the Audible, you're on the book. But are there other books that's inspiring you that you want to give some inspiration to, especially about being bold?
Yes, there is one that comes to mind, and it's called Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Ooh.
I read it when I started my own video series about tenacity, and it's all about the power of passion and perseverance. Which I think is a great tip. Yeah, so it's a good read.
Love it.
Lovely. We'll pop that link in as well. Thank you very much. Lauren, you love to travel. You love to explore other cultures. What's been the biggest lesson that you've picked up from your travels that you've then flipped into your career?
The power of people, connecting with people, not being afraid to, continue those connections. Asking questions, doors will open, build your network. So networking and people.
Love it.
Love it. You mentioned when we asked you about your own values and you talked about having energy and being tenacious. What is it? What's the most important trait you have that enables you to bring that energy?
Discipline is the secret sauce. I'm an extremely
I love
disciplined person. If I say I'm going to do something, trust me, I will do that.
I'm butting in on the discipline point as well, because I just heard an awesome thing that was someone talking about self-discipline actually being a form of self-care and self-love, because it's doing something now that you're disciplined enough to action so that long term it has like that beautiful payoff or whatever. So I think it all ties in.
I love that. I'm really weird. Even like on my little chores around the house, I'm really disciplined that they all have to be done. Tick, 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 tick. And I like to listen and go, I've done all my chores today, but it's discipline and it gives me energy. And I'm like, I feel really good. I've done everything and it's 6 a.m.
It's a form of self-care, fully.
It is, and they talk a lot about like marginal gains. So as people, we like to feel that we've achieved something. So when you're disciplined and maybe you have a set number of goals that you want to achieve that day, it could be cleaning your house, it could be getting to the gym in the morning. When you're disciplined with them, you tick them off. At the end of the day, you feel so much better and you're very energized.
Dopamine is
I
popping.
love that.
Oh yeah, we love it.
So final question on the quickfire round. Mic drop moment coming your way, Lauren. What's your parting advice? Big parting advice to our listeners.
Please believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, be curious, be confident, and dream big.
Woo!
Boom. Do you know what? Part of me doesn't even want to give the takeaways or the roundup because I think that's hit the nail on the head. The other bits, so for me, the stand-up bits that Lauren you talked about. And by the way, thank you for being so energizing and so on point. It was so crystal clear, and everything you said mirrors what I also believe in, which is talk to people, communicate, be authentic, hype yourself. Don't be shy about doing it. It doesn't make you arrogant. Leverage your network. Don't just say you're a salesperson, say you're a partnership player. Whatever it is, think about the language you use and think of it in a positive way. But Lauren, oh my God, absolute joy to have on. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It was amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lauren. That is a wrap on this episode, but why not check out our website to keep the conversation going? You'll find more resources and plenty more episodes at thedigitalvoice.co.uk, and maybe you'll find something to inspire your own leap of faith. Thank you so much for joining us, Lauren. This was such a great episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Off Record On Point. Join us again next time for another confession from an industry game changer. But until next time, I'm Julia Linehan.
And I'm Kasey Long. Enjoyed the conversation? Reach out and let us know by rating and reviewing on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to follow to never miss an episode.
Don't forget, you can always stay connected with us at thedigitalvoice.co.uk and across all social platforms. Just look out for The Digital Voice.
Please make sure to join us again next time for another undercover industry deep dive. All off record, all on point.